The champagne flute trembled imperceptibly in Marcus Chen's hand as he watched his wife glide across the ballroom floor. Elena moved with the practiced grace of someone born to command attention, her emerald gown catching the light from the crystal chandeliers above. To the 300 guests at the Whitmore Foundation's annual gala, she was the perfect philanthropist's wife. Elegant, charitable, devoted. Marcus knew better now. "Magnificent turnout," said Harold Whitmore, appearing at Marcus's elbow with his own champagne. The elderly philanthropist beamed at the crowd. "Elena's outdone herself again. That woman of yours could sell ice to Eskimos." "She has a gift," Marcus agreed, his voice carefully neutral. Harold didn't notice the edge. "The Children's Hospital will benefit greatly from tonight's proceeds. Your mother would have been proud, God rest her soul." At the mention of his mother, Marcus's jaw tightened. 6 months since her passing, and the wound still felt fresh. But now there was something else mixed with the grief, a cold fury that had been building for the past 72 hours, ever since he'd made his discovery. "Ladies and gentlemen!" Elena's voice rang out from the stage, amplified by the microphone. "Welcome to our 10th annual charity auction." The crowd applauded, gathering closer to the stage where Elena stood beside a tall, distinguished man with silver hair and an Italian suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. Dante Rossini, art dealer and appraiser for tonight's auction. Marcus watched as Dante's hand briefly touched the small of Elena's back, a gesture that would have seemed professional 3 days ago. Now it made Marcus's stomach turn. "Before we begin," Elena continued, "I want to thank my wonderful husband Marcus, whose generous support makes evenings like this possible." She found him in the crowd, blowing him a kiss. Several people near Marcus clapped him on the shoulder, offering congratulations. He forced a smile, raising his glass in acknowledgement. The auction began with smaller items, signed memorabilia, vacation packages, art pieces from local artists. Elena worked the crowd masterfully, her charm and wit driving prices higher and higher. Dante presented each item with theatrical flair, his Italian accent adding an air of sophistication that made bidders reach deeper into their pockets. Marcus barely heard any of it. His mind was elsewhere, replaying the events of 3 days ago. It had started with a simple mistake. Elena had left her laptop open on their bedroom desk, and Marcus had meant to close it. But the screen showed an open email, and the subject line had caught his eye. "Tomorrow's special items, confidential." He shouldn't have read it. 22 years of marriage had been built on trust, but something, call it intuition or suspicion, made him look closer. The email was from Dante, and its contents had shattered Marcus's world. "My darling Elena, everything is prepared for tomorrow's private viewing. The 3 buyers are confirmed. They understand these pieces must never surface publicly. $2.3 million to be split as usual. The replaced items in the safe remain undetected. How much longer must we continue this charade? I want you all to myself. All my love, D." The auction continued on stage. A signed guitar went for $15,000. A week at a luxury resort in Cabo fetched $22,000. All for charity, the crowd believed. All for the Children's Hospital. But Marcus knew better. He'd spent the next 2 days investigating, using his resources as CEO of Chen Technologies to dig into financial records, security footage, and shipping manifests. What he'd found had confirmed his worst fears and revealed a betrayal that went far deeper than simple infidelity. "And now," Elena announced, "we have something truly special, a collection of vintage jewelry from a private estate, authenticated by our wonderful Dante Rossini." Marcus's blood ran cold. He watched as assistants wheeled out a display case filled with glittering pieces. From where he stood, he couldn't see the details, but he didn't need to. He knew exactly what was in that case. His mother's jewelry, the collection she'd built over 50 years, each piece with its own story, its own memory. The collection that was supposed to be locked in their home safe, waiting to be passed down to their daughter Sophie when she graduated from medical school next year. "We'll start with this exquisite Art Deco diamond bracelet," Dante said, holding up a piece that caught the light brilliantly. Circa 1925, with papers authenticating its provenance. Shall we begin at 20,000? Paddles shot up around the room. Marcus remained perfectly still, his champagne forgotten. That bracelet had been his grandmother's, passed down through 3 generations. His mother had worn it to every Christmas dinner, every anniversary celebration. The bidding climbed. 30,000, 40, 50. Going once, going twice, sold to number 47 for $55,000. The crowd applauded. Elena beamed. Dante moved on to the next piece. Marcus slipped his phone from his pocket and typed a quick message to his lawyer, James Thornton. Phase 1 initiated. Standing by. The response came within seconds. Confirmed. Teams in position. Over the next hour, Marcus watched his mother's collection disappear piece by piece. The pearl necklace she'd worn to his wedding. The sapphire ring his father had given her for their 30th anniversary. The diamond earrings she'd worn the day she held Sophie for the first time. Each sale was another twist of the knife, but Marcus remained outwardly calm. He mingled when necessary, smiled when spoken to, and even bid on a few minor items to maintain appearances. All the while, his phone buzzed with updates from his team. Bank records confirmed, 3 years of transactions documented. Security footage archived, clear evidence obtained. Authentication papers traced, forgeries confirmed. As the auction wound down, Elena took the microphone one last time. Thank you all so much for your generosity. Tonight, we've raised over $800,000 for the Children's Hospital. The crowd erupted in applause. Marcus clapped along, even as he calculated in his head. 800,000 officially. But based on his investigation, at least another million would be siphoned off through the fake sales Dante had mentioned in his email. People began to drift toward the exit, buzzed with champagne and the satisfaction of their generosity. Elena made her way through the crowd, accepting congratulations and air kisses. When she finally reached Marcus, she wrapped her arms around his neck. We did it, darling! The hospital will be able to fund the new pediatric wing. You were amazing, Marcus said, meaning it in ways she couldn't understand. 22 years, and he'd never suspected she could lie so convincingly. I couldn't have done it without you. She kissed his cheek and he caught a whiff of unfamiliar cologne. Dante's, no doubt. I need to settle things with the staff. Why don't you bring the car around? I'll meet you out front in 20 minutes. Of course. He watched her hurry off, presumably to split the night's real profits with her lover. Then he walked calmly to the valet stand, handed over his ticket, and waited. His phone buzzed. James again. Judge signed the emergency injunction. Accounts are frozen as of 10 minutes ago. Marcus smiled, the first genuine smile of the evening. The valet brought his Tesla around, and Marcus settled into the driver's seat. He didn't go to the front entrance. Instead, he drove to the loading dock at the back of the hotel, where he knew Elena and Dante would be supervising the transfer of the sold items to their private buyers. He parked in the shadows and waited. Sure enough, 15 minutes later, a black van pulled up to the dock. Elena emerged from a side door, followed by Dante and 2 assistants carrying boxes. Even from a distance, Marcus could see they were being careful with the merchandise. His phone rang. Detective Sarah Martinez, whom he'd been working with for the past 48 hours. Mr. Chen? We're in position. On your signal. Not yet, Marcus said quietly. Let them load everything. I want them caught with the maximum evidence. He watched as box after box went into the van. His mother's legacy, being sold off to fund Elena's secret life with Dante. The investigation had revealed they'd been together for 3 years. 3 years of charity auctions, 3 years of skimming, 3 years of replacing real pieces with fakes. But it was worse than just the money. They'd been planning to run. Marcus had found the plane tickets hidden in Elena's files. One way to Buenos Aires, leaving in 3 days. She was going to disappear with Dante and leave Marcus to explain to donors why the Children's Hospital never received most of its promised funds. The van doors closed. Elena and Dante stood together on the loading dock, and Marcus saw Dante pull her into an embrace. They kissed, not a casual peck, but the deep, familiar kiss of established lovers. "Now," Marcus said into his phone. The loading dock erupted in flashing lights as 3 police cars converged from different directions. FBI agents in tactical gear swarmed the area, weapons drawn. Elena's scream pierced the night air. Marcus stepped out of his car and walked slowly toward the chaos. Elena saw him approaching, and her face cycled through confusion, fear, and finally, understanding. "Marcus." Her voice was small, nothing like the confident woman who'd commanded the ballroom an hour ago. "Hello, Elena." "I can explain." "No need." He held up his phone, showing the email that had started it all. "I know everything. The fake auctions, the private sales, the fact that you've been stealing from charity for 3 years. Oh, and Buenos Aires sounds lovely this time of year." Dante lunged forward, but 2 agents restrained him. "You don't understand. We were in love," Marcus suggested calmly. "Yes, I gathered that. What I don't understand is why you had to steal from sick children to fund your romance, or why you had to use my mother's jewelry to do it." Elena's face had gone pale. "Marcus, please, think of Sophie. Think of what this will do to her." "I am thinking of Sophie. I'm thinking about how I'm going to explain to her that the jewelry her grandmother left her is gone because her mother sold it to fund a new life with her lover." Detective Martinez approached, handcuffs ready. "Mrs. Chen, you're under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy to commit grand larceny. You have the right to remain silent." As the detective read Elena her rights, Marcus turned to walk away. But Elena's voice stopped him. "I never loved you," she screamed. 22 years of pretending. Do you know what that's like? Dante makes me feel alive." Marcus paused, then looked back at her. "Then you should have asked for a divorce, not stolen from children and dishonored my mother's memory." He walked back to his car as Elena and Dante were loaded into separate police vehicles. His phone was already ringing. Reporters had gotten wind of the arrests. By morning, it would be front-page news. Philanthropist's wife arrested in charity fraud scheme. But Marcus wasn't thinking about the headlines. He was thinking about the next phase of his plan. Elena's arrest was just the beginning. She'd taken everything he'd held sacred: his trust, his mother's legacy, his belief in their marriage. Now it was time to take everything from her. The next morning, Marcus sat in his attorney's office, reviewing the stack of papers before him. James Thornton had been his lawyer for 15 years, but he'd never seen the man look so shocked. "She really replaced your mother's entire collection with fakes?" "Every piece." Marcus pulled out a folder of authentication reports. "I had the contents of our safe appraised yesterday: cubic zirconia and silver-plated brass. The real collection has been sold off over the past 18 months. Dear God. The FBI tracked down 6 of the buyers. Private collectors who thought they were getting estate sale pieces. They had no idea they were buying stolen goods." James shook his head. "What about recovery?" "The FBI is working on it, but..." Marcus shrugged. "You know how these things go. The pieces could be anywhere by now." "I'm sorry, Marcus. I know how much that collection meant to you." "It's not about the monetary value." Marcus stared out the window at the Seattle skyline. Each piece had a story. The charm bracelet my father gave her when I was born. The brooch she wore to my wedding. The ring set she promised to Sophie. He trailed off, then straightened in his chair. "But we're not here to mourn. We're here to ensure Elena pays for what she's done. The criminal charges alone will..." "No." Marcus's voice was steel. "Criminal charges are the state's business. I want to talk about the civil suits. I want to talk about the divorce. I want to talk about making sure she doesn't have a penny to her name when this is over." James nodded slowly. "All right, let's start with the divorce. Washington is a community property state, which normally means a 50-50 split. However, given the criminal behavior and the dissipation of marital assets, she's been moving money offshore, Marcus interrupted. I found evidence of accounts in the Caymans, Switzerland, and Cyprus. At least $3 million siphoned from our joint accounts over the past 3 years. You have proof? Marcus produced another folder. Bank statements, wire transfers, even emails between her and Dante discussing how to hide the money. My forensic accountant says there might be more we haven't found yet. James reviewed the documents, his expression growing more severe with each page. This is comprehensive. How did you get all this? When you discover your wife has been lying to you for 3 years, you become very motivated to find the truth. Marcus leaned back in his chair. I hired the best digital forensics team in the country. They went through every email, every text, every financial transaction for the past 5 years. What did they find? Everything. Marcus's smile was cold. Did you know she's been having an affair with Dante for 3 years? But that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is that she's been using our charity foundation as their personal piggy bank the entire time. The Chen Family Foundation? The very same. The foundation my mother and I established to honor my father's memory. Marcus's voice hardened. They've been creating fake invoices for art appraisals, charging the foundation for authentication services that never happened. Conservative estimate? They've stolen $500,000 from the foundation alone. That's wire fraud. That's federal. Yes, it is. Marcus stood and walked to the window. The FBI raided Dante's gallery this morning. They found records going back 5 years. Apparently, Elena wasn't his first wealthy married woman. He has a pattern. A con artist? The very best kind. Charming, sophisticated, and patient. He spent months working his way into our social circle before making his move on Elena. She thought she was having a passionate affair. In reality, she was being marked by a professional. James set down the papers. This changes things. If we can prove she was manipulated... No. Marcus turned from the window, his expression fierce. She wasn't some innocent victim. I've seen the emails, James. She was an enthusiastic participant. She knew exactly what she was doing when she started selling my mother's jewelry. She knew what she was doing when she stole from sick children. And she knew what she was doing when she planned to leave me holding the bag. What do you want, Marcus? Everything. The house, the cars, the investments, everything. I want her to understand what it feels like to lose everything you value. That's aggressive. A judge might see it as vindictive. I don't care. Marcus returned to his seat. She betrayed 22 years of marriage. She stole from charity. She sold my mother's dying gifts to our daughter. Vindictive? Maybe. But it's also justice. James nodded slowly. All right, but we'll need to be strategic. First, we file for divorce on grounds of adultery and financial fraud. Then we petition for an emergency freeze on all marital assets to prevent her from hiding more money. After that, Marcus interrupted, we go after Dante. Dante? He's the one who received the money from selling my mother's jewelry. I want to sue him for conversion, fraud, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. I want to pierce the corporate veil of his gallery and go after his personal assets. That could get expensive. I don't care about the money. Marcus leaned forward. I care about justice. My mother fled China with nothing but the clothes on her back and built a life here through sheer determination. She saved for decades to build that jewelry collection. Each piece was a symbol of how far she'd come, and Elena sold it all to fund her affair. James made notes on his legal pad. We'll need to coordinate with the prosecutors. If we're not careful, the civil and criminal cases could interfere with each other. Already handled. I've been in touch with the U.S. Attorney's Office. They're willing to share information within legal bounds. You've thought of everything. I've had 72 hours to plan. Marcus's voice was grim. 72 hours since I discovered my entire life was a lie. Do you know what Elena was doing while I was identifying my mother's body at the morgue? She was in a hotel room with Dante, planning which pieces to sell first. How do you know that? Credit card records, security footage from the Four Seasons, text messages recovered from her deleted files. Marcus pulled out his phone and showed James a screenshot. This is from the day of my mother's funeral. Elena's text to Dante. The old bat finally kicked it. We can move on the big pieces now. James winced. That's cold. That's Elena. Marcus pocketed his phone. The woman I thought I knew never existed. She was a performance, just like her charity auctions. A knock on the door interrupted them. James's assistant entered. Mr. Thornton? Detective Martinez is here to see Mr. Chen. Sarah Martinez entered, looking tired but satisfied. She'd been working the case nonstop since Marcus first came to her with evidence. Mr. Chen, counselor. She sat down across from them. I have updates. We've arrested 3 of the private buyers for receiving stolen goods. They're cooperating fully in exchange for lighter sentences. Any word on recovering the jewelry? We've located 4 pieces so far, the Art Deco bracelet and 3 rings. The buyer in San Francisco still had them in his private vault. Marcus felt a flutter of hope. And the others? We're working on it. But I need to warn you, some pieces may have been sold overseas. Recovery becomes much more complicated once items leave the country. I understand. There's more. Martinez pulled out a tablet. We've been going through Rossini's files. Your wife wasn't his only victim. We've identified at least 6 other women over the past decade. All wealthy, all married, all involved with charity work. A serial con artist. With a very specific MO. He infiltrates charity circles, identifies vulnerable targets, seduces them, and then uses their access to steal from the organizations. Martinez looked directly at Marcus. Your wife may have been manipulated more than you think. Detective, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I'm not making excuses for her, Martinez interrupted. She committed crimes and will face justice, but Rossini is a professional predator. He knew exactly which buttons to push, which insecurities to exploit. Your wife may have been morally weak, but she was also victimized. Marcus stood abruptly. She made choices. Every day for 3 years, she chose to lie to me. She chose to steal. She chose to betray everything our family stood for. I don't care if Dante whispered sweet nothings in her ear. She's responsible for her actions. Of course. Martinez put away her tablet. I just wanted you to have the full picture. The U.S. attorney is considering federal racketeering charges against Rossini. With your wife's cooperation, he could face 20 years. Is she cooperating? Her lawyer is negotiating. But between you and me, I don't think she has much choice. The evidence is overwhelming. After Martinez left, Marcus and James continued strategizing for another 2 hours. They mapped out every legal avenue, every financial asset, every possible complication. By the time they finished, Marcus felt drained but determined. As he walked to his car, his phone rang. The caller ID made his stomach clench. Sophie. Hi, sweetheart. Dad? His daughter's voice was thick with tears. I just saw the news. Is it true? Is Mom really? Where are you? At school? Stanford? I'm supposed to have an exam in an hour, but I can't. I don't understand what's happening. I'm going to have the jet pick you up. Can you be at the San Jose airport in 2 hours? Dad, I have finals. Sophie, please. We need to talk in person. I'll explain everything, but not over the phone. A pause. Then, quietly. Is it true about Grandma's jewelry? Marcus closed his eyes. Of all the betrayals, this one hurt the most. Not what Elena had done to him, but what she'd done to their daughter. Yes, he said simply. Sophie's sob broke his heart. How could she? I don't know, baby. I don't know. 4 hours later, Marcus stood at the private terminal at Boeing Field, watching his daughter descend from the Gulf Stream. Sophie had Elena's delicate features, but Marcus's determined chin. At 21, she was brilliant, driven, and idealistic. Everything her parents had raised her to be. She fell into his arms, and for a moment she was 5 years old again, crying over a scraped knee. "I don't understand," she whispered. Mom loved Grandma. She spoke at her funeral. She cried for weeks. "I know." Marcus held her tighter. "I don't understand either." They drove home in silence. The house felt different now. Not a home, but a crime scene. Everything Marcus looked at reminded him of Elena's deception. The art on the walls? Had she sold originals and replaced them with forgeries? The antique furniture? Was any of it real? Sophie wandered through the rooms like a ghost, touching objects as if trying to confirm their reality. She stopped at the mantel, where a photo showed the three of them at her high school graduation. Elena's smile seemed sinister now. "Was any of it real?" Sophie asked. "Did she ever love us?" "I think she loved you," Marcus said carefully. "Whatever else she's done, I believe that." "But not you." Marcus thought about lying, about protecting his daughter from the full truth. But she was an adult now, and she deserved honesty. "I don't know. Maybe once, maybe in the beginning, but somewhere along the way." He shrugged helplessly. Sophie picked up another photo, Elena and Marcus's wedding portrait. 22 years. How do you lie to someone for that long? Practice, I suppose. That's not funny, Dad. I'm not trying to be funny. Marcus sat on the couch, suddenly exhausted. I'm trying to understand it myself. The woman I married, the woman I thought I knew, she never existed. She was a character Elena played. Sophie sat beside him. What happens now? Now? Now we deal with the fallout. Criminal trials, civil suits, divorce proceedings. The media will have a field day. Our family name will be dragged through the mud. I don't care about that. You will. Wait until reporters start camping outside your dorm. Wait until your classmates Google your name and find headlines about your mother, the charity thief. Sophie's face hardened, an expression pure Marcus. Then I'll deal with it. I'm a Chen. We don't run from difficulty. Despite everything, Marcus smiled. Your grandmother would be proud. Tell me about the jewelry. Which pieces did Mom sell? Marcus pulled out his phone and showed her the inventory he'd compiled. Sophie scrolled through, her face growing paler with each item. The butterfly brooch? But that was... Grandma wore that when she came to my piano recitals. All fake. She replaced them over the past 18 months. The pearl necklace Dad gave her for their anniversary? Sold 8 months ago to a collector in Japan. Sophie handed back the phone, tears streaming. She knew I was supposed to get these. Grandma told me stories about each piece. They were supposed to be mine when I graduated medical school. We'll try to recover what we can. The FBI is working on it. It's not about the jewelry. Sophie wiped her eyes angrily. It's about what they represented. Our family history, Grandma's journey, the promises she made to me. I know. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Sophie asked, Who's Dante? Marcus's jaw tightened. The art dealer who authenticated pieces for Mom's charity auctions. Also her lover for the past 3 years. 3 years? Sophie's voice rose. When I was in high school? When we were taking family vacations and having Sunday dinners and... God, was he there? Did I meet him? Several times. He came to charity events, holiday parties. You probably shook his hand. Sophie shot to her feet, pacing. This is insane. Our whole life was a lie. Every happy memory is tainted now. Not every memory, Marcus said quietly. Your achievements are real. Your acceptance to Stanford, your stellar grades, your research, that's all you. Your grandmother's love for you was real. My love for you is real. But Mom, your mother made terrible choices. But that doesn't erase every good moment we had as a family. It just complicates them. Sophie stopped pacing. You're being very zen about this. I've had 3 days to process. The first day I broke things. The second day I plotted revenge. Today I'm just tired. What kind of revenge? Marcus hesitated, then decided on honesty. Legal revenge. I'm going to make sure your mother and Dante pay for what they've done. Not just criminally, but civilly. I'm going to take everything. Good. Her vehemence surprised him. Sophie, no, Dad. She stole from sick children. She stole from Grandma's memory. She betrayed us all. I don't want her to have a comfortable life after this. I want her to understand consequences. You sound like me. I am like you. Sophie sat back down, taking his hand. We're the ones who actually cared about family, about honor, about doing the right thing. So what's the plan? Marcus squeezed her hand. First, we get you back to school. You have finals. Dad, your grandmother sacrificed everything so our family could have opportunities. You honor her memory by succeeding, not by wallowing in this mess. Sophie nodded reluctantly. And after finals? After finals, we rebuild. We restore the foundation's reputation. We recover what jewelry we can. We show the world that the Chen family name means something despite your mother's actions. What about the media? I've hired a PR firm. They'll manage the narrative as much as possible, but it's going to be rough for a while. I can handle it. Marcus believed her. Sophie had inherited the best of both her grandmothers, his mother's steel and Elena's mother's grace. She would survive this. His phone buzzed, a text from James. Elena's been released on bail. Her lawyer wants to meet tomorrow to discuss settlement. What is it? Sophie asked, seeing his expression. Your mother's out on bail. She wants to negotiate. Will you? I'll listen, but she's not getting what she wants. What does she want? If I had to guess, a quiet divorce, minimal jail time, and enough money to start over somewhere else. And what do you want? Marcus looked at his daughter, thinking of all the lies, all the betrayals, all the stolen moments that could never be recovered. Justice, he said simply. The meeting was scheduled for the next afternoon at James's office. Marcus arrived early, needing time to prepare mentally for seeing Elena again. He stood at the window, watching Seattle's notorious rain streak the glass, when the door opened. Elena entered flanked by her attorney, a sharp-dressed woman named Victoria Morse, whom Marcus recognized as one of the city's top criminal defense lawyers. Elena looked smaller somehow, diminished. Her designer clothes had been replaced with a simple gray suit, her elaborate hairstyle with a basic ponytail. Without her armor of wealth and sophistication, she seemed fragile. But Marcus wasn't fooled. He'd learned the hard way that Elena was a master of appearances. Marcus. She wouldn't meet his eyes. Elena. They sat across from each other at the conference table, lawyers between them like referees. Victoria Morse opened a leather portfolio. My client is prepared to make a full confession in exchange for a plea deal, she began. She'll testify against Mr. Rossini and help recover the stolen items. In exchange for, James prompted, minimum security facility, sentence of no more than 3 years, retention of some marital assets for living expenses upon release. No. Marcus's voice was flat. Victoria looked up sharply. Mr. Chen, perhaps you should let your attorney, no deal. She serves the full sentence for her crimes. She forfeits all claims to marital assets. She pays full restitution to the foundation and the legitimate charities she defrauded. That's unreasonable. My client was manipulated by a sophisticated con artist. Your client, Marcus interrupted, was a willing participant who used her position to steal from children's charities and sell family heirlooms. Save the victim narrative for someone who didn't read her emails. Elena flinched. Marcus, please, think about Sophie. I am thinking about Sophie. I'm thinking about how you sold the jewelry her grandmother promised her. I'm thinking about how you called my mother the old bat the day she died. Elena's mask finally cracked. You don't understand. 22 years, Marcus. 22 years of being the perfect wife, the perfect hostess, the perfect mother. I was suffocating. So you decided theft was the answer? Dante made me feel alive. The words burst out of her. He saw me as more than just an extension of the great Marcus Chen. With him, I was passionate, exciting, worthy of desire. And wealthy, Marcus added coldly. Don't forget that part. He saw you as wealthy and easy to manipulate. That's not true. We fell in love. He's been doing this for a decade, Elena. You weren't special. You were just the latest mark. Victoria Morse intervened. Regardless of the circumstances, my client is willing to cooperate. Surely that counts for something. James spoke up. The U.S. attorney doesn't need Mrs. Chen's cooperation. They have Mr. Rossini dead to rights with the evidence Mr. Chen provided. Her testimony would be helpful, but not necessary. Then we have nothing to discuss. Victoria began packing her portfolio. Wait! Elena grabbed her attorney's arm. Please just let me talk to him, alone. Victoria shook her head. I strongly advise against... Please! The lawyers exchanged glances. James looked at Marcus, who nodded slightly. 5 minutes, James said. We'll be right outside. When they were alone, Elena finally looked directly at Marcus. I'm sorry. For which part? The affair, the theft, the betrayal, or just for getting caught? All of it. She leaned forward, and for a moment, Marcus saw a glimpse of the woman he'd married. I know you won't believe me, but I never meant for it to go this far. It started small. Dante suggested we could skim a little from the auctions, help fund the foundation's overhead. Then it grew. And the jewelry? Elena's composure cracked. That was wrong. I know it was wrong. But Dante said we needed capital to start our new life, and I was so deep in by then. I couldn't see a way out. You could have stopped. You could have confessed. You could have chosen our family over him. I was going to... Elena's voice was barely a whisper. After the auction, I was going to tell Dante it was over, that I couldn't leave you and Sophie. Marcus laughed bitterly. You had plane tickets to Buenos Aires? I know how it looks. It looks like you were abandoning your family and leaving me to explain why the children's hospital never got its money. Marcus stood, unable to sit across from her any longer. Do you have any idea what you've done? The foundation is ruined. No one will trust us again. The families we were supposed to help, the children who needed that medical equipment, they're the real victims here. I'll make it right. I'll return everything. With what? You spent it all on your lover. The trips, the gifts, the secret apartment downtown. Oh yes, I know about that too. Elena seemed to shrink into her chair. What do you want from me, Marcus? I want the last 3 years of my life back. I want my mother's jewelry returned. I want to look at our wedding photos without feeling sick. He turned from the window to face her. But since I can't have any of that, I'll settle for justice. You want to destroy me. No, Elena. You destroyed yourself. I'm just making sure you face the consequences. What about Sophie? Do you think she wants to see her mother in prison? Sophie knows what you did. She's the one who suggested I show no mercy. Elena's face crumpled. She hates me. She's hurt, betrayed, confused. But hate? I don't know. Maybe in time, she'll forgive you. But that's between you and her. Will you let me see her? That's her choice, not mine. She's an adult. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Elena asked quietly, Did you ever really love me? The question caught Marcus off guard. I loved who I thought you were. But that person never existed, did she? She did. In the beginning, she did. Elena's eyes filled with tears. Before the pressure, before the expectations, before I lost myself in being Mrs. Marcus Chen, I was real. Maybe. But that woman disappeared long ago. A knock on the door signaled their time was up. The lawyers re-entered and the negotiation resumed. But Marcus was done listening. He let James handle the details while his mind wandered. 3 days ago, his life had made sense. He'd had a wife he trusted, a daughter he adored, a legacy he was building. Now? Now he had questions without answers, and a future to rebuild from the ashes of Elena's betrayal. The meeting ended without resolution. Elena and her attorney left with promises to reconsider their position. Marcus doubted anything would change. Elena had always been stubborn, even when she was clearly in the wrong. "She's scared," James observed after they'd gone. "The reality is setting in." "Good. She should be scared." "The U.S. attorney called while you were talking. They're adding money laundering charges based on the offshore accounts." "How much additional time?" "Could be another 5 to 7 years." Marcus felt no satisfaction at the news, just a weary acceptance. "What's next?" "We wait. Either she takes a deal or we go to trial. Either way, you need to prepare for this to get ugly. The media attention alone." "I can handle the media. It's Sophie I'm worried about." "She seems strong." "She is. But she shouldn't have to be. She should be worried about finals and boyfriends and what specialty to pursue in medical school, not whether her mother is going to prison." James gathered his files. "For what it's worth, Marcus, you're handling this with remarkable grace. Most men in your position would be out for blood." "Oh, I am out for blood," Marcus corrected. "I'm just being civilized about it." That evening, Marcus sat in his home office, sorting through boxes of documents. He'd asked the household staff to gather anything related to Elena's charity work, hoping to find more evidence for the prosecutors. What he found instead broke his heart all over again. Photos from charity galas spanning 2 decades. Elena with sick children, cutting ribbons at hospital wings, handing oversized checks to grateful recipients. In every photo, she looked sincere, compassionate, dedicated to the cause. Had it all been an act? Or had she genuinely cared before Dante corrupted her? He found a letter dated 5 years ago from a mother whose child had received life-saving treatment thanks to the foundation. Elena had framed it, displaying it prominently in her office. Why keep such a thing if she didn't care? His phone rang, interrupting his brooding. The caller ID showed a number he didn't recognize. Marcus Chen. "Mr. Chen? This is Robert Kim from the Seattle Times. I'm working on a story about your wife's arrest and wondered if you'd like to comment." "No comment. Please direct all inquiries to my attorney." "I understand, sir, but I'm actually calling about a different angle. We've received information suggesting your wife wasn't the only charity organizer working with Dante Rossini. There may be a larger network." Marcus sat up straighter. "What kind of network?" "I can't reveal my sources, but there are indications that Mr. Rossini had partners in multiple cities. Your wife may have been part of something bigger than just their personal relationship." "Have you shared this with the FBI?" "We're verifying the information first, but I thought you should know, given your position. If this is as widespread as we think, the damage to charitable organizations could be enormous." Marcus ended the call and immediately dialed Detective Martinez. She answered on the second ring. "Mr. Chen, it's rather late. I just got a call from a reporter. He says Dante might be part of a larger network. We're aware of the possibility. The forensic accountants are tracking suspicious patterns in charity auctions across the West Coast." "How long have you known?" "Since this afternoon. We didn't want to alarm you until we had concrete evidence." "My wife was part of a crime ring?" "We don't know yet. She may have been unaware of the larger operation, or she may have been recruited specifically because of her position in Seattle's charity scene." Marcus sank into his chair. Every time he thought he understood the scope of Elena's betrayal, it grew larger. "What do you need from me?" he asked. "Access to your foundation's records going back 10 years. Contact information for other charity organizers your wife worked with. Any unusual patterns you might have noticed in retrospect." "I'll have everything sent over tomorrow." "Mr. Chen, I know this is difficult, but if we're right about this, you and your foundation may have been targeted from the beginning. Your wife's relationship with Rossini might not have been as random as it seemed." The implication hit Marcus like a physical blow. "You're saying our entire marriage might have been—" "I'm not saying anything yet. But I need you to consider the possibility that this goes deeper than a simple affair that turned criminal. After ending the call, Marcus sat in the darkness of his office, surrounded by the debris of his life. If Martinez was right, if Elena had been placed in his life as part of some long-term criminal scheme, then nothing about the past 2 decades was real. He picked up the framed photo from Elena's desk, the one of them in Paris on their 10th anniversary. They looked happy, in love. Had she been calculating even then? Had every tender moment been part of some elaborate con? The sound of breaking glass startled him. He'd thrown the frame against the wall without conscious thought. As he stared at the shattered pieces, Marcus made a decision. If Elena had been part of something larger, he would expose it all. Every conspirator, every stolen dollar, every charity that had been defrauded. He would tear down the entire network, no matter the cost. His phone buzzed with a text from Sophie. "Can't sleep. Keep thinking about Mom." Was any of it real? Marcus typed back. "I don't know anymore, sweetheart. But we're real. Our family is real. Hold on to that. Love you, Dad. Love you too." He set down the phone and began making a list. Tomorrow, he would hire private investigators. He would offer rewards for information. He would use every resource at his disposal to uncover the truth. Elena had started this war, but Marcus would finish it. The revelations came quickly over the following weeks. The Seattle Times broke the story of the wider network, dubbing it the charity fraud ring of the West Coast. The FBI arrested dozens of people across 5 states, gallery owners, event planners, charity organizers, all connected to Dante Rossini's operation. Marcus watched the coverage from his office, feeling vindicated and sickened in equal measure. The investigation revealed a sophisticated operation that had stolen an estimated $50 million over 15 years. Fake auctions, forged artwork, diverted donations, the scope was staggering. Elena's role became clearer as cooperating witnesses came forward. She hadn't been a mastermind, but she wasn't an innocent victim either. She'd been recruited 3 years ago, identified as a perfect target due to her position and her apparent vulnerability. She was lonely, one witness testified. Dante could spot them, the charity wives who felt unappreciated. He'd romance them, make them feel special, then gradually introduce them to the scheme. But Elena had been one of the most successful recruits, generating more illegal revenue than any other member except Dante himself. Whether due to skill or enthusiasm, she'd thrown herself into the criminal enterprise with abandon. The day of Elena's sentencing arrived gray and drizzly, fitting Seattle's mood. Marcus sat in the courtroom's front row, Sophie beside him. His daughter held his hand tightly, her face pale but determined. Elena entered in shackles, wearing orange instead of designer labels. She'd lost weight, her face gaunt and hollow. When she saw Sophie, her composure cracked, tears streaming down her face. The judge, Harold Kimura, was known for his harsh sentences in financial crimes. He reviewed the charges methodically: wire fraud, money laundering, conspiracy, theft. The list seemed endless. When offered the chance to speak, Elena stood on shaking legs. "Your Honor, I take full responsibility for my actions. I betrayed my family, my community, and the charitable organizations that trusted me. I allowed myself to be seduced not just by a man, but by greed and excitement." She turned to look at Marcus and Sophie. "To my family, I am profoundly sorry. Sophie, my beautiful daughter, I know I've destroyed your trust. I don't ask for forgiveness, only that you know my love for you was the one real thing in my life of lies." Sophie remained stone-faced, but Marcus felt her trembling. Elena continued, "To my husband, former husband Marcus, I wronged you in unforgivable ways. You deserved better. You deserved truth and loyalty, and I gave you neither." The judge listened impassively, then delivered his verdict. "Mrs. Chen, you held a position of trust in this community. You used that position to steal from the most vulnerable among us, sick children, homeless families, victims of domestic violence. You've shown remorse, but remorse doesn't erase the damage done. He paused, consulting his notes. On the charges of wire fraud, I sentence you to 8 years. Money laundering, 5 years. Conspiracy, 3 years. Sentences to run concurrently for a total of 8 years in federal prison. Elena swayed, but remained standing. Furthermore, the judge continued, you are ordered to pay full restitution of $3.7 million to the defrauded charities. All assets obtained through criminal enterprise are forfeited. You are permanently barred from serving in any fiduciary capacity. The gavel came down with finality. As guards led Elena away, she looked back one last time. I love you, Sophie, she called out. Sophie finally broke, sobbing into Marcus's shoulder. He held her as the courtroom emptied, offering what comfort he could. Outside, reporters swarmed, but Marcus's security team cleared a path to the waiting car. As they drove away, Sophie asked, Is it over? The criminal part, yes. There's still the civil suits and the divorce. I mean, is it over for us? Can we move on now? Marcus considered the question. The foundation was being rebuilt under new leadership. He'd recovered about half of his mother's jewelry through FBI efforts. The divorce would be final within months, leaving Elena with nothing but her prison sentence. I think so, he said finally. We can start healing. I want to help with the foundation, Sophie said suddenly. I want to show people that the Chen name still means something good. Are you sure? You have medical school. I can do both. Grandma would have wanted us to continue her work. Marcus smiled, the first genuine smile in months. She would be proud of you. Do you think Mom meant it? What she said about loving me? Yes, Marcus said without hesitation. Whatever else she lied about, she loved you. But not you. Marcus thought about lying, then decided his daughter deserved honesty. I don't think she was capable of the kind of love I wanted, but maybe she loved me in her own broken way. They drove in silence for a while. Then Sophie asked, What about Dante? Trial starts next month. With Elena's testimony and the other witnesses, he's looking at 20 to 30 years. Good. Detective Martinez says they've recovered another piece of Grandma's collection, the pearl earrings from Hong Kong. Sophie managed a small smile. The ones she wore to your law school graduation? Those ones exactly. As they pulled into their driveway, Marcus felt a weight lifting. The house no longer felt like a crime scene. It was just a house, one they could fill with new memories, honest memories. That evening, they ordered Chinese takeout and looked through photo albums, focusing on pictures of Marcus's mother. Sophie asked for stories about each piece of jewelry, and Marcus obliged, remembering his mother's voice as she'd told the same stories. The butterfly brooch was the first piece she bought after getting her citizenship, he said. She said it represented transformation, from refugee to American. We'll get it back, Sophie said firmly. All of it. And if we don't, we'll create new pieces with new stories. Grandma would understand. Marcus hugged his daughter, grateful beyond words for her strength. Elena had taken so much, but she hadn't taken this. The bond between father and daughter forged stronger in the crucible of betrayal. His phone buzzed with a message from James. Divorce finalized. You're a free man. Marcus read it, then deleted it. He didn't need legal documents to tell him he was free. He'd found his freedom the moment he'd chosen truth over comfortable lies. 6 months later, the Chen Foundation held its first gala since the scandal. Marcus had been reluctant, but Sophie insisted. We hide. They win, she'd said with her grandmother's steel. The turnout exceeded expectations. Seattle's elite came to show support, curious to see how the Chens would recover. Marcus gave a brief speech about redemption and second chances, then turned the microphone over to the real star, Sophie. His daughter spoke eloquently about the foundation's new direction, the safeguards in place, and the communities they served. She was poised, passionate, and authentic in a way Elena had never been. My grandmother came to this country with nothing, Sophie said. She built a life through hard work and determination. That legacy was threatened, but not destroyed. Tonight, we reclaim it. The audience erupted in applause. Donations poured in, exceeding their goals. By evening's end, they'd raised enough to fund the children's hospital wing that Elena's theft had jeopardized. As the gala wound down, a woman approached Marcus. She was elderly, well-dressed, with shrewd eyes. "Mr. Chen, I'm Patricia Walton. I knew your mother." "Mrs. Walton, of course. Mother spoke of you often. I have something for you." She handed him a small velvet box. "Your mother gave this to me years ago, asked me to keep it safe. She said if anything ever happened to her collection, I should return this to you." Marcus opened the box with trembling hands. Inside lay a simple gold ring with a small jade stone, his mother's first piece of jewelry, bought with her first paycheck in America. "She never included it in the main collection," Mrs. Walton explained. "Said it was too precious to risk. She wanted to make sure you'd have at least one piece that truly mattered." Marcus couldn't speak around the lump in his throat. Sophie peered over his shoulder, gasping when she saw the ring. "Is that—" "Grandma's first ring," Marcus confirmed. "She wore it every day until she bought her wedding band." Then it was never in the safe, Sophie realized. Mom never even knew it existed. "Your mother was a smart woman," Mrs. Walton said. "She knew how to protect what really mattered." After Mrs. Walton left, Marcus and Sophie stood together, looking at the ring. It was simple, almost plain compared to the elaborate pieces Elena had stolen. But it was real, untainted by lies or betrayal. "You should have it," Marcus said, offering the box to Sophie. "No," she said firmly. "We'll keep it in the foundation. Display it as a reminder of where we came from and what we're building toward. Grandma would like that." Marcus nodded, proud of his daughter's wisdom. They'd lost so much: trust, innocence, a fortune in jewelry. But they'd gained something too, a deeper understanding of what truly mattered. Family, honor, the courage to rebuild after betrayal. As they left the gala, Marcus felt his phone buzz. A text from Detective Martinez. "Thought you should know. Dante Rossini convicted on all counts. 35 years, no parole. It's really over." Marcus showed the message to Sophie, who nodded with grim satisfaction. Justice had been served, as much as it could be. "What now?" Sophie asked as they walked to the car. "Now we live," Marcus said. "We honor your grandmother's memory. We help people through the foundation. We prove that the Chen name means something." "And Mom?" Marcus considered. "Your mother made her choices. She'll serve her time. Maybe she'll find redemption, maybe not. That's her journey now, not ours." "Do you think you'll ever forgive her?" "I don't know," Marcus admitted. "Forgiveness isn't forgetting, and I can't forget what she did. But holding on to anger is like drinking poison. So maybe, someday, for my own peace." They drove home through Seattle's wet streets, the city lights blurred by rain. Marcus thought about the strange journey that had brought them here. A year ago, he'd thought he had a perfect life. Now he knew better. Perfection was often just a well-crafted lie. What he had now wasn't perfect, but it was real. A daughter who'd shown remarkable strength. A foundation reborn from scandal. A collection of recovered jewelry that told the story of his mother's journey. And most importantly, the knowledge that he'd chosen justice over comfortable lies. Elena had stolen years of his life, but she hadn't stolen his future. That belonged to him and Sophie, to build as they chose. And they would build it on truth, no matter how imperfect. As they pulled into their driveway, Sophie asked one last question. "Dad, do you regret marrying her?" Marcus turned off the engine and really considered the question. 22 years with a woman who'd ultimately betrayed everything they'd built. But those years had also given him Sophie, had shaped him into who he was. "No," he said finally, "because without that marriage, I wouldn't have you. And you're worth any price, even this one." Sophie hugged him then, and Marcus knew they would be all right. The Chen family had survived war, immigration, poverty, and now betrayal. They would survive this too and emerge stronger. In the end, that was the best revenge of all. Not just justice, but the refusal to let Elena's betrayal define them. They would write their own story, one truth at a time. As they entered the house, Marcus noticed a package on the doorstep. The return address was the FBI evidence warehouse. Inside, carefully wrapped, was his mother's butterfly brooch, the symbol of transformation she'd bought with her first American paycheck. He held it up to the light, watching it sparkle. Tomorrow they would add it to the Foundation's display, alongside the simple gold ring. Two pieces of a collection, recovered against all odds. Not the whole, but enough. A beginning. Marcus smiled, thinking his mother would approve. After all, she'd built a life from less. And now, so would they. The butterfly brooch caught the light again, and Marcus could almost hear his mother's voice. Transformation is painful, my son, but what emerges is always more beautiful than what came before. He believed her. The chrysalis of his old life had shattered, but what emerged, scarred, wiser but unbroken, was indeed more beautiful. Because it was real. And that was worth more than all the stolen jewelry in the world.